What is going on, Movie Meals? Movie Meals, happy Halloween. Remember, we have an exclusive Patreon show. This is it. This is the show. If you're here, we're watching it. $1 a month to get the full podcast. Had somebody comment, a fan we love so much commented and was like, all this stuff is old on an old app we did like a month ago that dropped on YouTube today. But then they were like, all this stuff's old. What's this all this information? It was like, we got an exclusive thing, man. You got to pay that buck. We love a
Not just
good
going to
buck.
be on YouTube. Not just going
So
to be on YouTube, guys.
merch, I missed the movies. Made that during the old COVID era. Um, go do all that good stuff. But let's get into it. We're here for the show. We got a lot to talk about today. A lot of nerd stuff. But
This
first,
past week, yeah.
real quick. I'll be honest, real quick, because it's gonna spark a rant from me if we get too deep into it. What do you?
Oh.
Real quick review of Black Adam. What did you think? What were your positives? And give me your negatives right off the bat. Give me both. You got 60 seconds on the clock. Down to 50.
uh, certainly not a good movie, but it's a fine movie. Um, if you're a fan of Dwayne Johnson and his rockisms and his smolders, then I think you will like what he does here with his character being a more anti-villain type role, but he still pulls out the Dwayne Johnson charm, and he gets to be a superhero villain who gets to rip apart CGI creatures. I think there's plenty of audiences who are wanting that, and if you're one of them, I think this is right up your alley. It could be a good time, not a movie that you take super seriously, but still an enjoyable one nonetheless. But as for me, it had some good moments, some cool action. I liked Hawkman and Doctor Fate.
I did too.
Pierce Brosnan and Aldous Hodge did a great job. Honestly, I want to see more of them than I would Black Adam, but they did a very good job as the side role characters, and I did think this movie did the best job I've seen lately of, if they are trying to build a DC universe, then the little nuggets and connections I thought were like the perfect amount. But outside of that, as like its own standalone movie, it's okay, but I'm not gonna write home about it.
Yeah, I think the movie's just okay, very bland. It's the first movie I've ever seen not directed by Zack Snyder that is trying so hard to be directed by Zack Snyder. A lot of slow mo that didn't work. I thought outside of the slow mo, I dug the action. Really liked Hawkman. I actually liked all the heroes. I thought they all were cool. I thought that maybe they were trying to push the humor at times a little too hard with some of them, um, and I think The Rock was good. He just wasn't in a great movie. The story was just pretty weak, I thought, and I think it would have been much more compelling to make it a full on or like full origin. Instead of just talking about the origin, and then his origin is I'm actually at this time, even though I really wasn't, and all this stuff. Um, yeah, I thought it was okay. I liked it enough. I think I kind of put it on par with like how I feel about Captain Marvel. Like I enjoy those movies. I enjoyed Captain Marvel a bit more than this because I love Brie Larson. But yeah, it's okay. Fans surrounding this movie and the post credit scene need to take a chill pill, and that's like what we call a segue. So why don't we start with this Henry Cavill news? So Henry Cavill's back as Superman.
What?
He's back. He's being teased that he might fight Black Adam or Shazam, and Black Adam might fight. People be fighting. People are ruining spoilers. Whatever. Henry Cavill goes, "Hey, no more Witcher. I'm doing one more season," and then Liam Hemsworth is taking over the reins of Geralt. So Kyle, are you a Witcher guy? Did you watch both first two seasons?
No, no. I like
Wow.
Henry Cavill a lot, but for
Wow.
some reason, I just never got the energy to watch the show.
You will though now. Big Liam Hemsworth guy.
Oh,
He's in.
clearly Netflix read my petition finally, and it's happening.
Oh,
So you guys are
that was
welcome for
you.
that.
That was
That was
you,
all
huh?
me, guys.
Okay, okay.
Um, I was surprised about his schedule being that full. I guess because of Superman now that they needed to
I don't
recast
think that's
for.
true.
Do you think it's for the other reasons that I've been hearing about?
What are the other reasons?
Like there's behind the scenes drama that the writers of the show aren't fans of the source material, and Henry Cavill is basically like, well, if you're not gonna appreciate the source material, I'm not gonna be in it. something along those lines.
I think that is true. That is not the one thing I'm thinking of, but
Oh, okay.
Henry Cavill was rumored a while ago, as well as Elizabeth Olsen, to be in conversation for House of the Dragon season 2.
I
There is a
forgot about that.
character who will be introduced in House of the Dragon season 2 who from I haven't read the book, but I've done a pretty big deep dive, but I've heard other people talk about this. From what it sounds like, the character is basically Henry Cavill, like in real life, like as the witch, just this big brooding buff guy who just has honor and everything. And the rumor
Mhm.
is that they were going to bring him in. Thoughts where everybody was like, he's going to be a Targaryen because he's got white hair in The Witcher. He's got to have white hair in Game of Thrones. And I just don't think that's true. I think he is being looked at heavily to play a decent role in Game of Thrones. And I think he's looking at House of the Dragon going, this is a fantastic show. And I think I watched both seasons of The Witcher. I liked season 1, but it was confusing. I liked season 2 about the same because it was less confusing, but it did get a little more boring. So they kind of evened out because I
Hmm.
got something I wanted, and then the other thing went down and at
Right.
times. But I love Henry Cavill. I will hope it's House of the Dragon. If it is drama behind the scenes, good for him. If he's a big fan of the books and the games, so if he's like, look, I would rather make a bunch of Superman movies and maybe Game of Thrones or something, and not be involved in this, good on him, I think. And Liam Hemsworth, yeah, I actually don't mind Liam. The few movies he's been in that I've seen, I think he's done a good job for what he's been given in poor movies. But
Sure.
I think it's a little unfair to hate on him. People hated on Chris, and Chris is now, you remember movies like Rush coming out, and some of these little movies that you forget about with Chris, and he could show something here, but it will be an interesting change. I wonder if the show loses me at that point. We'll see, but
For
and
sure.
definitely Superman. I think they're going to try to move quick on a Superman movie. But what do you uh,
Yeah.
what do you got here?
No, I agree. I think now that this
You
announcement is
better.
official, and in another part of this show that we're about to discuss with some movement behind the scenes with DC, I do think Man of Steel 2, or maybe it's under a new title, but a new Superman movie regardless, is going to be happening with Henry Cavill
Oh
in the
yeah.
role very soon.
Oh
For
yeah.
me, Alex, you and I, we expressed this many times. We love Man of Steel. Um, Batman v Superman,
It's
Justice League,
it's
we can
good.
kind of forget about those. But
Great
Henry
trailers.
Cavill, great trailers, not so good
Horrible
movies.
movies.
But Man of Steel, we do love. We love here on this show. And as happy as I am that he gets like a redemption when it comes to this role, because a lot of the behind the scenes stuff with DC for the past couple of years has not been on him or any other actors for that matter, is all behind the scenes stuff. So for him to be able to finally get back to the role and get like a redemption out of it, I think is really cool just on his part to see. And I'm happy for that. And I can't wait to see it. But I am also mixed because by the time that happens, the last Superman movie standalone was like, or it's gonna be like 12 years or later at that point. And I just feel like it wouldn't hurt to still do recasting. I've always been okay with moving on with some of these roles, particularly within like Zack Snyder's world of just that was what it was. Now it's time to just start over and move on to other things. And I also wouldn't have been opposed to that when it comes to the role of Superman. So I'm in this mixed range where it does make me happy because he does deserve this to have more chances with this role. But at that point, it's going to be a very long time, and I'll be excited, but I think we also could have moved on just as much. So I don't know, just
Speaking
on
of
the bubble with it.
uh speaking of DC, this is what we call a segue into the
Woo!
fact that what is it? James Gunn and Peter Safran is how you say it, are the new heads of DC in what people were calling a shocker. A shocker.
Yeah,
So James Gunn, correct me if I'm wrong, it will be kind of more of the creative guy, and Peter will be more of the money guy, right? Kind of have a balancing act here. It's because Kevin Feige does both, and then DC Zazzy Boy up at the top was like, we can't find a Kevin. We've looked everywhere, so we're gonna get two guys we think together could fuse and become Kevin, right? Is that correct?
yeah. That's kind of the gist I'm getting from the reports. I think they were a part of looking for the next Feige role, so to speak. I think they were involved in the hunting for that new guy. That's why the name Dan Lin was floating around. I think, according to somewhere I read, that it was like one of their recommendations, but that deal just fell apart. It didn't work out. So I imagine as they were, their names probably weren't necessarily in the running, but maybe some head over, or maybe Zaslav himself did it and was like, you know what, you guys,
Zazzy
we
boy.
already trust you guys enough, like with Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, and in this search for someone new, why don't you guys just do it? And I think it was just probably an offer they couldn't refuse, and rightfully so. They've been in this industry for a long time, and they've been through it all together because they've been partners with many of their projects for a long period of time, and now they're at this point of running a branch of a studio company. Now, will it work? Will it not work? Obviously, that just remains to be seen. I'm not particularly fond of creative types, making business decisions and running corporations, kind of like what we saw with Zack Snyder in a way. Though he obviously wasn't handling like marketing and money stuff and that sort of thing, but like just figuring out like a whole world didn't seem to really be like the best idea, or a whole cinematic universe, whatever you want to call it. But I guess at least with these two, you could make an argument that there's at least a balancing act. Like they at least, one, know the source material very well, two, they know the industry very well, and three, they've worked together long enough to where they know how to wheel and deal together, how to make good business decisions. And like you were saying, and these reports are saying, Alex, that at least the jobs could be separated enough to where James Gunn can be looking for the creative types to think about like the storytelling first, and then Saffron could be on the other side saying, okay, now that we got these storytelling types, how do we get the budgets going? How do we get the schedulings of the productions going? Maybe he's working on marketing. I'm not sure, but there is potential for this to be good. Um, I'm very much looking forward to it, but I just need to wait and see more of this development because we have no idea what these plans are going to be or how everything's going to shake out.
I think this has all been strategic. I think these deals have been done for a while. I think The Rock at some point convinced an after credit scene with Superman just in case it happened years ago. They put that in, and
Hmm.
then I think a month or two ago, months ago, they've had this idea that Gunn and Peter were going to take over. And I think Peter and Gunn said, "You've got this after credit scene. We're bringing him back. I think the fans love him as Superman. We're going to make him more light and energetic. We're going to give him to a different director, maybe Gunn, and
Yeah,
then they'll then I think this has all been strategic. All this news has come out. I think they're just trying to get back on DC's get DC back on the good side.
yeah.
um so I think this is all interesting. James Gunn is a director that I went from like, okay, he's one of the best directors ever, to okay, his shtick is now the same and getting a little old, to okay, he's brought me back with a pretty good movie and then an even better show. I think Peacemaker is the best thing he's done since Guardians 1. I think it's much better than Suicide Squad. I thought the show was excellent. And I think it'll be interesting to see how many guys are we going to see too from Marvel come over now. Like, next thing you're going to hear is the Russo brothers are doing a Justice League movie. You know what I mean? Like that's the next thing we're
Taika
going to
might be
hear.
available.
We'll get to Star Wars. Taika's apparently available.
We love our teases on
Which
this
I do
show.
not think is true. But yeah, I think this is just good. You got any other thoughts on it, or curious to see where
I
it
just
goes?
hope.
You got it.
I
This is
just
a 10
hope.
year question. You know what I mean? Like, how is it going to look in 10 years from now?
Yeah, it definitely is. But just on these initial reactions, I'm at least happy that there is possibly stability, and I hope that also means that they announce at some point like a legitimate plan. I'm not asking for a 5-year slate or a 10-year cinematic universe grant. I'm just saying like, hey, like what are we expecting here? Are we expecting like this is a fresh restart, or are we going to be acknowledging some of the other movies, and then tell me like one or two projects that are for sure going to happen and are for sure starting their productions very soon instead of here's a title with some concept art, but will it actually happen? Ooh, who's to say? Um,
I think you're making fun of me right now.
mm, maybe a little, but I am hoping that
Wow.
for DC as well because we need a
Wow.
win. The
I think
Batman
James
wasn't
Gunn
enough.
too came in when they talked about him taking the role and said he probably came in and was like, "Dude, no one can be Feige, but I got an idea. Why don't we start with a Superman movie? Let's bring Henry Cavill back, lighten up the tone, maybe have him fight Black Adam or Shazam or somebody,
Mhm.
and then let's go. Let's get the Batman 2 ramped up, and then let's go from there." So
Speaking of which, before we move on, I do want to make a point that some of these
no,
reports are saying that it's sounding like Matt Reeves and his whole Batman universe thing is still going to be its own separate thing for now, and then stuff like Joker and Joker 2 that's separate for what Gunn and Saffron are about to do. We'll see what develops, but that's just what it sounds like right now.
they just want an expanded universe. They just don't want to lose the DCEU is what's their Zazzy boys freaking out over. But all right, let's switch gears. Stay with DC though. Let's talk about this Green Lantern show that I have much less to say than you, so I'll let you take the lead here.
It was also another thing being reported along with all this DC stuff, so figured it was just worth mentioning that um, this Green Lantern show for HBO is being developed, but it's sounding like there's changes within like the writers' room, and the focus is now going to be switched from the Guy Gardner and Alan Scott versions of Green Lantern to the John Stewart versions of Green Lantern. And I'm sure many people are more familiar with John Stewart versions than say Guy Gardner and Alan Scott. So I think that's kind of the better move just because of that. Like he's a more recognizable character, I feel like, especially in recent years, um, with the likes of Zack Snyder, but also just the animated shows as well. So that makes me more excited for the show, just because I'm more fond of that character or that version of Green Lantern, and we'll see how more developments go. I'm not sure if Finn Wittock, who I think was cast originally, I'm not sure of which version of Green Lantern. I haven't seen anything, but he might be out of the project now. Um, Unless there's something reporting that I missed on that. I just haven't heard any confirmation, but I would expect that to be the case, unless one of those characters is still that he was going to play still going to be utilized. But I don't know. Green Lantern is always just such a cool concept to me that I'm excited to see what they do, whether it's a movie or show. But I'm just happy to hear some news about it finally, because it was one of those projects, as I was saying earlier, that's like, ooh, is this happening? Is this not? We don't know. So I'm just glad that there's something at least.
Cool. That's about as much as I care, honestly, about this story. Sounds good. Glad
Moving
you're
on.
excited. Cool. Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about today's casting news. And I'm going to let you do this because I will butcher your name, even though I think you're an incredibly talented actor. So Wonder Man's been cast by.
Yahya Abdul Mateen II, terrific
Love it.
actor. I'm
Yahya
happy to
Abdul
see
Mateen.
him.
Love
I'm
it.
glad to see him getting more blockbusters, big picture roles. I'm really excited to see
Especially after
him
Aquaman.
in Mac. Yeah, I mean Aquaman 2 is coming out. I'm sure he's going to be in that project. He's going to be in George Miller's Furiosa prequel, I believe. I don't think he was.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still in that project. Last I heard. And I'm really excited about that. But yeah, the dude's just been killing it lately. Very talented actor. I haven't grown with Wonder Man comics or anything closely related to Wonder Man, so this character isn't, one
He's
that's
not in
beloved or I
the
feel like,
Furiosa movie.
oh,
It's
is he
not in
not?
his
Oh,
upcoming
shoot.
projects on IMDb.
Darn. I was looking forward to him being there. Well, at any rate, still a very talented actor, and, he's going to get a great paycheck with this show, and hopefully it's a very good show. Will be very interesting to see what he does with a character that I'm not familiar with.
Um, I think he's a great actor. I loved him in Candyman. And I actually thought
Mm,
he did great in Michael Bay's Ambulance. I really enjoyed
yes,
Ambulance. I thought that was a very fun movie.
it
I'm
was great.
very excited for what he will bring. Um, hopefully Aquaman 2 is good. Um, I'm struggling to look something up here.
What are you
Um,
trying to look up?
I just want to look at the Furiosa stuff. I was
Yeah,
struggling
I
to
mean
spell
it's
people's names. Here we go.
yeah. I remember like many years ago that he was attached to that movie, but
Nope,
this stuff happens
he
all the
is not.
time, and we can't keep track of it on all of
Chris
it.
Hemsworth is
Um,
though. They're
he's
filming that
still
right now.
there. Okay,
So,
nice.
yeah, I think this is great casting. I think he was in a really bad Aquaman movie that hopefully Aquaman 2 is good, but I think this is great. I put him up there with Jonathan Majors as two guys that just kind of popped up out of nowhere lately for me, and then I've been like, yes, please more of these two. I really really am enjoying what they're bringing. Um,
Oh yeah,
so yeah.
yeah.
All right.
They got that charisma out of actors that
They
you know
really
that you
do.
always gravitate towards him. You always gravitate towards those guys. I feel like.
Yeah. Well, let's move on here, shall we? To what matters in life. You know what I mean? Lightsabers, baby. Hey, go check out our TikTok. I made a video of me just swinging this around. I was like, got a couple new toys and just needed to play around with them. I can't stop swinging them. They're so freaking fun. Got a little
They look great.
Luke Skywalker replica here. You can put the blade in. Oh, it's the best, man. Anyway, Star Wars. Okay, Star Wars is in
Yeah,
trouble. And everybody's like, oh
big
my God,
trouble.
Star Wars is in trouble. And it's like, have you been paying attention for the last 5 years? Have you been paying attention? Come on, man. All right, let's start. Let's start at the beginning. George Lucas
Okay.
was born in 19. God,
Love it.
so there's kind of a lot that's happened. So I think we should go in the order that it happened, right? So the first announcement, you correct me if I'm wrong. First announcement, Damon Lindelof
You're
has
wrong.
a secret. Oh, what am I wrong about?
No, I'm messing
Oh,
with you. I'm messing
he
with you.
has a
Keep going.
secret writer's room. I don't remember. I know there were a couple names that they were like, this guy they think was in this writer's room and stuff. And I remember reading, being like, I like that they've done. I like that they've done, but I don't remember any names. Apologize for that. But that he has a secret writer's room that is working on a new Star Wars project. I have been saying forever that Taika was supposed to be making a Star Wars movie in 2023. I swear that's what I read. I believe now that was actually the movie coming out in 2025. And I was confusing it with Rogue Squadron, which was supposed to have been filmed and almost finished by now and come out December of next year. I really do remember. I thought I remember 2023. I thought I remember somebody else talking about it, but um,
I thought 2023 was Rogue Squadron original release date,
it was
but I could
originally,
be
and then
wrong as well.
I thought I remember when when Thor was coming out around July, I thought I remember seeing a video where somebody said Taika is now taking that release date. He's going to quickly finish writing the movie and they're going to run into production. So now apparently Taika is nobody knows what's happening with his movie and that he is not the one taking over in 2025 and that it is actually Damon Lindelof who just came out with Watchmen, was kind of the big last thing I think he's done. He is one of the creators of Lost. He what's the other big thing he did? He made The Leftovers on HBO, which is a fantastic show. Shout out to our friend
Hmm.
Travis who made me watch that show because that show truly in the top 10 best shows of all time for me. I think it's so good. It is fantastic. Watchmen is great. I know he's made one or two things I don't love. Um, I did read somewhere that he is actually part of the original. Like he had something to do with Phineas and Ferb being made way back when. Not
Oh,
obviously the guys who did some of the voices did the creation of a lot of that and everything, but I think he had something to do with it, whether he's producing or what. But
hmm,
um,
cool.
Damon Lindelof, I don't think can do no wrong. And I actually think a TV writer coming in and writing this is a great idea because he has made some very complex stories and shows. I love this idea of a secret writer's room. But the rumor now is that he will be the movie in 2025 and Taika is being pushed to the side. And then following that, news came out that Kathleen Kennedy has been told by New Bob that she needs to no longer announce Star Wars projects, that they're not allowed to announce them, that she needs to only announce them when they have made significant movement on productions. And I think that should have happened a long time ago. There's also some new stuff I read today from the direct about how executives in Star Wars are very nervous with where Star Wars is headed. They have really not been fans of because, Bob Iger left after episode 9. So it's kind of a new regime of Disney came in after the sequels. And the thought is that a lot of the new execs who have been brought in by New Bob and New Bob himself are really disappointed with the process of the sequel trilogy, that they pushed them out. Same with Solo, and pushed and pumped out all these movies to try to just make a profit, and they lost some of the creativity in the stories. And I actually kind of like that that's what I'm hearing from New Bob, because we have talked about how New Bob's a numbers guy. I'll tell you what, I was just at the park. Bob Iger picked the right guy. If New Bob was responsible for everything that Disneyland's doing, he picked the right guy, because Disneyland is freaking phenomenal. They made Star Wars rides that are better than any of the sequel movies. Are you kidding? With a story. I was like, what is this? Anyway, what do you think about this? Wow.
I say, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Like, it's become a tired trend for nearly 5 years. Was Rise of Skywalker like
Yeah.
almost 5 years ago at this point? Holy
Something like
crap.
that, 4 or 5 years ago,
Jeez.
yeah.
Okay, still can't get that nonsense out of my head. But yeah, like nearly 5 years, and there was a tired trend of announcing projects with potentially great fits for creatives, and no process, or they all get swept under the rug, or they all get shifted and churned into TV shows that aren't
Yeah.
very good.
Even
So
farther back than that, all the way to Ryan. Before
yeah,
Last Jedi comes out, Ryan Johnson's going to do a trilogy. She was overly enthusiastic, is what reports are saying about Ryan Johnson, and completely turned tail when the reception was not great.
the Game of Thrones
Well, that's
creators,
still not true. The reception was great. There was a group of loud people who screamed until they made her upset. If, in all honesty,
yeah, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the Game of Thrones guys, Patty
I
Jenkins,
forgot Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Yeah,
even the Boba Fett
Solo.
movie. I think it was supposed to be Josh
Josh
Trank who
Trank.
was supposed to
Yep.
direct it.
Yep.
God,
There
so
was
it's
a
yeah,
Yoda
so
movie that was announced at one point that was never going to see the light of day. That was about 8 years ago. Also,
yeah,
yesterday, 10-year anniversary was yesterday of Disney buying Lucasfilm.
and that probably then this whole pattern has probably been happening since then,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
We just mapped this out. So yeah, 10 years too late, but at least someone in there, even if I'm not a fan of theirs per se, like they're saying, hey, like knock it off, like and I think this is that needs to happen not just for Star
Needed.
Wars, but
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of blockbuster related projects or franchise related projects as well. Quit saying like you're announcing all of these projects, quit announcing, like just wait until everything is a done deal behind the scenes, when there's like a script ready, there's pre-production set up and ready to go, you have your cast, and then make those announcements and say, hey, we have this project, here's who's going to be involved, and we're about to start shooting in the month. You should just do it that way. I get it that we're at a time where you have to make headlines all the time and you always have to get some sort of exciting announcement out, but there's repeated patterns, especially with Star Wars, where it's not making your business look good. Like even if you do have good quality stuff, people still remember that stuff. Not everyone, but there are some people that do still remember that stuff, and it's not good
Yeah.
for the brand, no matter how big or small that group of people is.
I do
So
think,
yeah, go
if
ahead.
I can stop you for a second, I do think
Go ahead.
Marvel is a big reason that this has become a problem,
Yes.
not only for Star Wars, but for DC and some of these other things, because Kevin Feige come out on stage with this huge presentation and he'd be like, here's all the movies. But Kevin Feige would make most of those movies. Only usually one or two got changed or something else happened, right? Like Ant-Man changed, but we still got an Ant-Man movie. But for the most part, we've
Inhumans,
gotten,
maybe the
yeah,
one that
Inhumans got
changed the most.
changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we need to remember that I don't want to hear everything. I would much rather be surprised at Star Wars Celebration that they have suddenly started shooting. Here's the first 30-second look of our new movie that we're shooting right now. Obi-Wan was announced like 6 years ago, and it took
Mhm.
forever to get filmed. That had production problems. We're not happy. We are happy. Blah blah blah. And then we get a show that I really liked, but I know some people thought was just good to okay, and some people
Mhm.
thought was great. But
Well,
But we
remember back
need
to the Rogue Squadron announcement. I mean, they did this whole spectacle thing of Patty Jenkins
yeah, they
being
brought
like on
Patty
a,
out,
yeah, they brought her out. They had a video of her like walking next to these
an
fighter
X-wing.
jets and saying
It's an
like
X-wing.
all these, yeah,
Oh
the
yeah, no,
X-wing.
it
She was
was
saying
yeah,
how
yeah.
her, yeah, how her like father used to fly planes, and like this project's gonna mean a lot to her, and she loves Star Wars, yada yada yada.
And then
Great, you
she
wasted
she
money and
showed
you
up
ruined
with a
everyone's time.
script. She showed up with a script and they said, "No, no, no, this isn't good enough." And she goes, "Well, this is the movie I agreed to make." And they said, "No. This is not the movie
Yep,
we want you to make." And I
yep,
get the creative
for sure.
differences. Maybe Patty Jenkins brought a crap script. I think it is unfair to I always support the artist, but I think at times it is a little unfair when we just go, it had to be the artist, they had to make this amazing vision, we have to get artist visions because like we did get Zack Snyder's Justice League, and was it better than Justice League? Yes. Was it a great movie? No. Like we still, you know what I
Sure.
mean? Like we still
Hmm.
can have this, but I'm glad they're doing this. What Star Wars is going to be having. We know Mandalorian's coming. I do think for sure we are getting the Skeleton Crew with John Watts because I just watched an interview with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni talking about Tales of the Jedi, which I'm 3 episodes in, which is awesome. Um, that and they talked about Skeleton Crew and that they might see some similar characters from Skeleton Crew and Mandalorian season 3, which has also got a date announcement that it's going to come in February. This upcoming February is when Mandalorian season 3 is coming out.
Oh, Mandalorian. Okay, yeah.
Yes. But I know that's happening. Acolyte just added to the cast, so I do believe that's happening. Um,
Okay.
and there was Ahsoka we know is shooting. There we go. All those things I
Oh.
named are Disney Plus shows. Cool.
Mhm.
I think that's awesome. Andor is maybe the best Disney Plus show they put out. I arguably would think it might be the best show on TV I've seen in a long time. I think it might be as good as House of the Dragon, which I think is the best show this year so far. It's that good. I think it's been
Very
phenomenal.
competitive.
And I where are the movies? That's what we want. Star Wars will
Yep.
never truly feel like Star Wars until we're back in the theater, until we
Yep.
see Star Wars. Damon Lindelof is apparently making a sequel, something that is happening years later, but will be after the sequels, and that there's rumors that sequel characters might show up. And now everybody's immediately like, oh, it's going to be about Poe or Rey or Finn. It can be about Maz Kanata for all I care. If Damon Lindelof knows what he's doing, so I kind of trust him completely. And I'm in that mindset because I said the same thing about Taika, and then Taika put out a bad movie, and then I was like, okay, I think Taika will still do a great job. I hope he just learns from Thor, and now he's apparently not doing it. But I think Damon last thing he made was Watchmen, and Watchmen was awesome. It was awesome.
Mhm.
So I'm excited for this writers room. I'm glad that they're taking this approach to Star Wars. I think it's better for the community. I think it's better for just fans as a whole. So yeah, I dig all this. I think this is great. I think this is great for Star Wars. I think these are the right moves. I think Big Bob's making some good plays, and I think they're taking their time with stuff. And Andor is killing it. Tales of the Jedi is awesome so far, the 3 eps I'm in. And that's what Star Wars needs to do. They need to stick to television, I think, and focus on these stories, and then hit
I
us with a
think they
Damon
do have a.
Lindelof movie. Get an
I think they
amazing
do
director
have
to
a
to direct
director
it, and
attached.
we'll
Let
be
me
good
double
to go.
check that. But
Any other thoughts on that?
I'm just gonna be holding my breath.
Remember when there was that one director like 6 years ago? I don't even remember who it was. It was a director that made like 3 movies that I had never heard of, but people were saying were good, like underground indie movies. Remember they were like, this guy's
Oh,
pitched a Star Wars movie and now
yeah. I
he's
think
going to be the next Star Wars movie.
that guy's
When did
name.
that end? You know what I mean? Like,
No offense to him,
there were
but it
so
was a pretty
many
smaller name. I think they
things
were
they've
able to shove
announced.
that under the rug and just move on from it. But yeah, that's just another example, and um, that's just another example of a pattern. And I'm just gonna hold my breath, hoping that
Could
this
have made a great
project,
movie.
or I'm just not gonna waste much of my brain power until I actually see actual movement on the project, or if I actually see a pattern where they're learning their lessons and not throwing headlines out for the sake of throwing out headlines. Um, so it looks like with this Lindelof project, uh, Shareem Abdane Chenoy is in talks to direct, who recently was a part of Ms. Marvel. and he does have a writing partner in Justin Britt Gibson, who I'm looking on IMDb now. I'm
Writers.
looking at Variety's report, unless if there was an update
I
that
thought
I'm
there was
not
a
familiar
secret
with. Maybe that
writers
was the
room.
case, but um, and you never know. Those two could have been like the leads of the writers' room, and he has some other people helping out.
Hmm.
Could just be a small room of two. They never were
The
specific.
writers. They could just be a small
But yeah,
room.
that's all I have to say on that matter. Hopefully, this is a movie that
Yep.
happens.
Me too. Yeah. All right, guys. A little shorter episode today, but what'd you think? Comment below. Let us know. Remember to like, subscribe, and
See you
share.
guys.
Go get some Movie Meals merch. Do all the good stuff. And as always, thank you for watching, Mom.